Hello everybody, my name is Jothecrowbar and I play a character named Jo-the-crowbar. And recently I've been using Jo-the-crowbar to get word out about my problem. What my problem is I have a vindictive ex-wife who's trying to have me arrested. Now I'm not just saying that, I mean it. This woman has literally filed an order of protection against me that I got overturned by myself because I paid this lawyer. Right here is their copy of the receipt. I paid this lawyer's fees, and he decided he did not want to represent me, but told me in a letter. So, it is important that you hire an attorney in Virginia to protect your rights, relevant to the papers that you provided me. Go online and hire an attorney immediately. I am not allowed to practice law in Virginia, and I can take no action to protect your interests there. However, I will protect your interests relevant to your pistol permit, and I will represent you relevant to the same in New York. Well, sir, have you done any research? You would have found out that you could have gotten a adjournment, and that would have immediately eliminated my need to take time off from work and drive all the way to Virginia with a simple phone call. So this man, who I had paid $3,000 to represent me, sends me this letter and doesn't do any footwork or phone calls that would simply let him know that he could have filed for an adjournment and gotten my court date pushed back. Now, he is trying to represent me for my pistol permit, which I will not get returned if I do not get the order of protection overturned. I think his plan was that I would go down there and not get the order overturned so that he could keep my $3,000 and say, well, there's nothing I can help you with this in this matter because you couldn't get the order overturned. Well, if I have my money tied up with you because you've taken it and you've taken the money and told me you could help me and then turn around and send me a letter a couple days later that says you can't help me, kind of makes you the worst attorney in the world and a piece of shit. This is how I went dressed to Virginia. So me and my father have to travel to Virginia. Because of this lawyer who said he could not help me, I went down without counsel of a lawyer. But I had the counsel of the Lord, God. And I read my Bible on my way down, and, well, sometimes I let James Earl Jones read me the Bible because I'm lazy. But, you know, we got to the part about Daniel and Lion's Den, and it spoke to me in volumes because I was under persecution of my ex-wife. And when you're being persecuted, you feel like you're being attacked personally. But it's not you they're attacking, it's your belief system. So my ex-wife doesn't like that I'm a Christian. She doesn't believe the same things I believe. And that's part of the problem why we're in the situation we're in. One of the reasons why I'm still single is because in the Bible it says after you're divorced, you're to stay single. And therefore I am single. And that's the way I'll keep it because, well, I'm divorced. And, you know, if down the road I meet another divorced woman, it says in the Bible that I may marry her. But until that day comes, I'm just going to be single, and that's fine. And that's just me and the Lord. But he provides me with a pretty sweet life, so I can't complain. I have a beautiful house. I have 3 cars that I enjoy. And all these things I've gotten because I'm a hard worker, and the Lord provides for me. And I want to be very clear when I say that, you know, I've worked very hard my entire life. When me and my ex-wife were together, I worked and allowed her to go to school to get a nursing degree. And when the court system, when she went to court to try to get me to sell everything, she wanted me to sell my entire house, all my cars, everything. We'd only been married for like less than a year at this point. I want to say it was like a little over a year, maybe. And the judge looked at her and goes, ma'am, are you crazy? There's no equity in his house to sell. There's no money to be made in anything because he has all this debt that he has established based on the fact that you were going to be together. So if anything, she put me in a hole and left me there. But because I'm a hard worker, I climbed out and my life has been getting better progressively. Well, this has angered my ex-wife because her life has progressively gotten worse. And I don't think she's just in a bad slump. I think that she's depressed mentally. I feel like there's a lot of mental abuse that's going on in my ex-wife's house, but I won't speak about that because it's not my place and I don't know. But my children have expressed to me that they're very unhappy in their situation. And that's a problem to me because my kids are calling out to me saying I have a problem and nobody's listening to the children. All right? Now they can keep giving them gifts and stuff to quiet them down, but internally they're suffering. And I maybe you can't see it, maybe because I'm their father I see it, but I hear it in their voice. I hear it when my son just called me, right? Trying to FaceTime me. And I answered and he had to run to his room. But then when I called him back, I couldn't get in touch with him. Well, there's a problem there. Why is that? He just had his phone. It wasn't dead. I called him and it went to voicemail after it rang. Why is it all of a sudden after I try to contact him, it's a problem? But I provide them a cell phone so that they can talk to me whenever they want. I pay for that out of my pocket. Both my kids have their own phones, so I can contact them directly. I don't need to contact my ex-wife, and that's part of why this is a problem now. Because my ex-wife is mad that I don't pay attention to her. She's mad that nobody pays attention to her, and she is an attention hog. So as much as I don't want to do this because I realized that it was just feeding her need for attention, I have to do this so that my children get attention for the problems that they're having. Otherwise, they're going to continue to suffer. So if you think I'm doing this for me, please, I ask you to reconsider your situation. All right? Now, I'm going to read to you some of the things that they were trying to say about me in court that were, I should say, some of the lions they put in the den with me in court. Because my ex-wife had a lawyer. And you know what? He went to school for a long time, I'm sure, to be a lawyer. And I only have a high school education, and I beat this man in court. And I want you to think about that. Now, did I do it? No. God did it. God took care of me. And he gave me the wisdom that I needed to be a man who had gone to school to be a lawyer. And you know how God told me to do it? A soft answer turneth away wrath. And I didn't say anything. All I did was answer their questions, yes or no. And when the judge asked me to respond, I asked simple questions. Because I'm a simple man. And I don't have a Harvard degree, and sometimes the things I say don't sound exactly the way they're supposed to, and I apologize. And a lot of the times, I may say something that I didn't even mean, but that's impulse control, Everyone should learn to put a guard over their tongue, and mine isn't always the best. So, but it was that day, and that's what matters, right? Now, my ex-wife and her lawyer, I don't think they were working together when she filed this order of protection. Because the order of protection makes no sense. I have 2 sons. And I don't have 3 kids with my ex-wife. But yet she filed the order of protection on herself and her 3 kids. Now, if you think about that, if I hurt my ex-wife or her 3 kids, I would go to jail. How would I get to see my children if I'm in jail? Think about that. Why would you file an order of protection against a dangerous man on 3 kids that weren't his, that I never see, I'm never alone with? And if I was a danger to 3 kids that aren't mine, why would you leave me alone with 2 kids that are mine? It doesn't make any sense. Because this is the actions of a woman who's being fed information by her mother, who is the problem. See, her mother doesn't like me because, I'm an uneducated white male, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't like undereducated white males, and it's crazy because she works for the New York State penitentiary system. And that means she is in charge of uneducated white males all the time. And when one stands out of line and isn't in jail for doing nothing, it upsets her, but she wants to put me in jail. And literally, this order of protection, they tried to get me in jail for. Stuff that was ludicrous, just the most outrageous thing ever. And I want to read to you what the order of protection was for. It says, my ex-spouse, Joseph W. Barr, that's me, I'm her ex, and that's the way it's going to stay, has been contacting me outside the conditions of our legal agreement. This has risen to the level of harassment and fear for my safety. He admits that he is and will make allegations up to get the children. He has sent the police and CPS to my home with no findings. That's actually not true. I actually have the reverse. I actually have multiple CPS reports that she's filed on me. It just blows my mind. So, and I didn't send the police. I did send the police to her house. But that's because my son got a bite mark on his back that was so big, I could see it in FaceTime in a mirror. And I was trying to find out, I was trying to get a picture from my ex-wife when this all happened, but she wouldn't send me a picture of the bite mark on my son's back. She said she was too busy. And I gave her 3 days before I called the cops and had them go do a wellness check, which is not against my legal rights as a parent who has children in her care. But I did not know at the time that she had lost one of her children. And so the whole CPS thing, that wasn't me. That was the state of Virginia. You know, I didn't call the state of Virginia and call CPS. That was them. That was them checking on her kids because she lost them. She lost one of her children. Not my kids. Obviously, they're adult, they're old enough, and they have their own cell phones because I pay for them, that they wouldn't be lost. So I want you to think about that. Am I calling the CPS on her, or is she calling it on herself because she's not a caring and attentive parent? I don't know. You do the math. I'm just an undereducated high school white male who nobody cares about. So let me continue to read the statement. He has sent the police and CPS to my home with no findings. Mr. Barr has a history of mental illness. I love that because I don't. And I would love for her to support that. That's an allegation. I do not have a history of mental illness. That's ridiculous. But I know somebody who does have a history of mental illness, and it isn't me. But let's not go into that. That's not my problem. That's not my thing. I can't be out here giving out people's information. That's not my job. So, has a history of mental illness and non-compliance with medication. His behavior is escalating. Well, I would love to list the number of medications I'm not on because I only take one medication for my ADHD that I get prescribed to me by a doctor. And I take it once a day. So, at the same time, she's saying all this stuff that's not true. And the other issue I have with that is she's taking my son to a psychiatrist. Now, if she's saying that I have a history of mental illness, is she saying my children have a history of mental illness? Because that's not true. That is a lie. And she's falsifying documents for my children that directly impact them in their health. She could be putting them on medication that they don't need. And that's my issue. My 100% issue is with this statement. She's admitting that she's saying I have a history of mental illness. So does that mean she's telling my son's psychiatrist that I can't get the information to call or get in contact with that he has a history of mental illness when he doesn't? These are questions I need answers to, people, but I can't seem to get them because my ex-wife is blocking me from that information. I have emailed her, asked her politely, kindly, and still received nothing. Well, let me continue. This only gets better. All right, I don't want to interrupt. So his behavior is escalating. He has posted on social media that he's going to Virginia to take his kids. Videos that he posted show how much he dislikes me, and he will get our children back if he gets 50 people to sign a petition. I actually was going to have a petition signed, but I realized there was no legal merit to it, so I had just gave up on that idea. That was actually true, but I didn't do it with any sort of social media. It was literally on just my Facebook, and it was my close personal friends. That's why no one's ever seen that video, because it wasn't a video of me trying to get 50 people I don't know. It was 50 people I know who live around me and know how I live my life, you know? So the problem is she's spying on me in my personal life. And I say that because she blocked me on Facebook a long time ago, which was fine. I don't really care. But that means she has spies working for her, watching my Facebook, telling her stuff, which is cool. I'm not really that upset about it because, it only kind of helped me in the long run, to be honest with you. It only made you look bad, not me. So, yeah, it's I care about my kids enough that I want them to come home, and you're not letting them come home when they've asked to come home in the past. Just saying. Think about that. He has informed that he is not going to come. He has informed that he's going to come on my property and only contact me for child updates. His recent calls involve swearing and calling me names in front of the kids. That's actually not true. They now live in fear. Nah, that's not true either. If they do live in fear, it's not from me. It's from the lifestyle that they are living in their home, which is possibly in fear because I am a little bit concerned for the well-being of my children and their care. But I feel like whenever they want to contact me, their behavior is being corrected and being told that they're bad. And my son's being made to feel like he's doing something bad when he's just telling me what's going on in his life. And it's not the prettiest. He now calls my oldest son with interrogations. It's like, what? Interrogations? So I'm calling my children and interrogating them. About what? What would I be interrogating them about? Explain. I don't understand. I am fearful for my safety and the safety of my children. He has a long history of harassing and gotten increasingly threatening in regards to me to taking our children. It says hi instead of he. Stated he will come into my property as long as I have the children here, and has made it known that he views my children from my current marriage as a problem. He told me to get rid of the monsters. I actually never said that. And she calls them monsters all the time. I have advised by the police and my counsel to pursue an order of protection. My husband is in deployment and I am alone. Actually, that's actually a really good point. She was alone. And I was telling her that she cannot be alone during the COVID-19 because how is she going to the store? Is she leaving my children in the car unattended? I'm pretty sure I have a CPS case file on me for leaving my kids in the car to pay for gas one time. So she's going into the store, going shopping, and leaving my kids alone in the car. But that's okay because it's at her convenience. But when it was for me to not let my kids go outside in the rain and pay for gas, it was a problem. I want you to think about that. Think about that for a minute. Let it sink in. She's just going in the store. And now, do any of my children have masks? No. She showed up to court without a mask on to show how little she cared about that situation. When it's a serious situation, because my youngest son has upper respiratory issues. And it puts him at high risk for getting the COVID-19. And she's not taking it seriously. And I asked her to relinquish my children to me during the situation to eliminate cross-contamination from her children to my children. And she would not do so. Which blows my mind because I live alone in a huge house and they are cooped up in a tiny house. And if one of them gets sick, all of them get sick. Do you understand? Do you understand my situation now? Why I was so upset and why I was on edge all the time? I wasn't in fear for my life. I was in fear for my children's lives, which aren't being taken seriously. Okay? And everyone who supports her and the things that she's doing, you're just as equally to blame. Okay? I know for a fact that you guys are raising money to help pay for lawyers. Why? She has a husband who's in the military. She could work for a living, but she chooses not to. I have provided her with a nursing degree. She could go out and make a lot of money. She can make almost as much money, more money than I can make. But she chooses not to. And don't say it's because of childcare, because those kids are old enough to be in care and need it, because they honestly are suffering from not being in like a setup, like a daycare or something, because obviously they're biting my children and they don't know how to interact with other people. That's a problem. And I'm sure that the government that her husband works for would fund them going to a daycare, because my job, Target, would fund my children in a daycare. So I can't imagine that the United States government wouldn't have a system in place for childcare. And if they don't, shame on our government. Deployed children are thriving in schools. That's not true. They're not thriving in schools. I actually want to have them tested by New York State standards and see how well they are thriving, because I have my doubts, honestly. It almost seems like they're in suspended animation in regards to their educational standards. So, like, it would seem like they're not learning anything. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I'm not a specialist. I'm just saying, as a high school educated man, they seem to not be thriving, in my opinion. An order of protection would give me and my oldest children a sense of safety and hopefully would deter Mr. Barr from showing up at my door. Well, interestingly, this entire statement makes no sense, because she filed the order of protection on her 3 youngest children, which are not mine, by the way. I don't know why she would do that. Like, it makes no sense. And I don't want anything to, like, I'm not saying I don't want anything to do with them, but I don't want to have to deal with problems that aren't mine. You know, like, they're not my problems. They're not my kids. And that's totally cool. That's like an adult behavior to have. If I don't want to have to deal with your kids that aren't mine, then I shouldn't have to. But at the same time, my kids have to deal with it. So if you're not correcting the bad behaviors that they have, it affects me in my life and my children. My children are getting bitten, scratched, and all that sort of thing. And I have pictures. You know, they're just not being taken care of properly. And I'm asking them to be returned to me. And instead, I'm getting met with a protection order to keep me from being in my children's lives. Now, I don't know if you think that that's backwards, but it is pretty backwards. So that's what the order of protection was. That's what she was in court trying to use against me. Now I'm going to give you some of... I'm not going to make this a lengthy video. It's already been 30 minutes. But now I'm going to give you a taste of some of the things they brought to court to try to use against me. And this is my favorite one, so I'm just going to do one. So, I messaged my son. I was like, would you like a bedtime story? Pray before you sleep. Love you. Right? He sends me a Bitmoji. And it's a picture, as you can see. It looks kind of like a girl. And I said in the picture, I go, love you, buddy. And that emoji is a little girl. He looks a little bit like your mom, LOL. She's such a beautiful woman. Be sure to tell her that. Right? I love you. Be good. Now, call me if you want a bedtime story. They tried to get me arrested for saying that. They said that I was trying to contact my ex-wife through my son. That is not true. I was trying to teach my son to respect his mother, which is crazy because she treats me like crap, but I'm still teaching my children to respect their mother. I want you to think about that. I'm teaching my children to respect the woman who treats me like crap. And I'm going to leave that with you. That was what they tried to get me arrested with. That statement right there. When the judge heard that, she was a little disappointed in my ex-wife. Let's just say that. And her lawyer looks at the judge and goes, ma'am, do you need to read the law? And oh man, that made the judge hot. Like, this guy, I don't know what he was thinking, but when he said that, it was a huge mistake. I don't know what he was thinking, but I can just remember, like, the judge's, like, she had a mask on the whole time, and I asked to remove my mask while we were in court because it's, like, hard to read my facial expressions, and, you know, from here I look pretty angry. You know, I have really aggressive eyebrows and stuff, and I didn't want to send the wrong message, so I wanted my whole face to be red because I'm an honest person. And then, honestly, one of the things about me is that my face tells, like, all the story. So like, the guy, I don't know what he was thinking or what his direction was with that. He's like, do I need to show you the law? And he's trying to, like, hand the lawyer or, like, the bailiff up the law. And the judge is super hot at this point. She's like, sir, I know the law. She starts telling about how long she went to school. It was crazy. Like, you had to be there. But, like, when they asked me, it was my turn to respond as a respondent. And I said, yeah, I said those things. And I go, what about that upset you? And her response was some lackadaisy thing like, oh, well, I just felt like it was disrespectful. It's not disrespectful for a child to respect their mother. And that's what I want my son to do. Regardless of how our relationship is, I still want my son to treat his mother with respect because that woman gave birth to my 2 beautiful children. And I do respect and appreciate her for that. So anyone who thinks otherwise is wrong. And the judge realized that because I'm a God-fearing man. You know? I said that. I was like, at the end of the day, she gave birth to two beautiful kids that I'm thankful for. Without her, I wouldn't have my kids. So as much as I don't love her, I still appreciate her as a person. And especially, and like I'm saying, there's definitely something going on here. I'm concerned for her because I honestly wonder, and this is just my curious mind, I wonder if her relationship with her new husband is so abusive that she's trying to make a how do you say, sacrificial lamb out of me. By getting me in trouble, she could say, well, look, I got him arrested. What's to stop me from getting you arrested? And keep him in check. Because I happen to know for a fact that he's been attempting to cheat on her in the past. So I know their relationship isn't the best. And you're going to sit here and say I have mental health issues, but I'm pretty sure one of us is going to see a therapist on the regular and getting prescribed medication for that issue that you're having. And it's not me. Now, one of us could be anyone. I'm not saying her personal information. It could be anyone. It could be any person in the world. But I want you to think about that. I don't have mental health issues. What I do have right now are issues with the police coming in my home unwarranted and taking my pistol permit. Well, I mean, they have a right to do that because in the state of New York, when you have an order of protection filed against you, you automatically have to surrender your pistol permit. The other thing is, so the guy, he goes, well, we have these videos of you on YouTube with guns. And in the videos, I was giving them away, right? Well, the guy was like, you should be arrested because you're seen on camera with a gun after the order of protection was filed. The cops came in my house. Now, all my guns stay locked on the wall, where they would be if I had to give them away for this situation. But they are all locked on the wall. The cops walked in and saw them. They could have asked me to take them down, and I would have handed them to them because that was the law. And they are police officers doing their job. And I would have handed them over, but the cops did not ask me for them. So now I have guns in my home violating this law or this order of protection that's not really in place yet. It's just we're at a hearing for it. So the lawyer is asking me, well, did you have guns in your possession? I go, yes, sir, I did. I go, what was I to do with them? Take them and throw them out in the street? No, I had to find good homes for them with people who I could trust to not abuse the law with a gun that's in my name. A gun that's attached to my name is with people who I trust and I know won't kill somebody with it and then it won't lead back to me. You know what I'm saying? But this lawyer didn't seem to understand that a gun is a dangerous weapon in the wrong hands. And if I had given it to the wrong person, who's to say what would have happened? So I had to find reasonable people to give the guns away to. And that is why the judge even found their statement, what his argument was, just a farce. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Everything that this guy was trying to use to get me arrested, and I mean he was really pushing to get me arrested. He wanted the bailiff to put me in cuffs. Because that's my ex-wife's goal, is to get me arrested so I can't tell her what to do with my kids. And that's just wrong. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you think. But me not being able to be in my children's lives is inappropriate. And it's because of one person's opinion, all right, of what is right and wrong. And this person has a very, very inappropriate moral compass. And that is the problem that we're coming to. This is the impasse that we're at. Because now, my ex-wife calls me controlling. Well, if that was true, would I have let her go to Virginia in the first place? Would I have let her move out of state of New York? No, it's not true. But what is true is she would hound me all the time until she got her way. And but I told her I wouldn't let her leave unless she gave me a custody agreement. And this is the new custody agreement that we wrote up together. And she has a signed copy that we signed in front of a notary of the public so that we know that it was signed under no duress. I still have 50-50 custody. And it says right here, the parties agreed to joint legal custody arrangement with both parents being given the right and responsibility to decide matters of welfare, education, and health in the children's best interests. That's literally in our agreement. But yet I cannot make any calls in regards to my children's best interest because my ex-wife is hiding behind the government. She's hiding behind this judicial system and using it and manipulating it when there are women out there who are in bad positions and really need it. But she's muddying the waters with this BS so that she can keep me from making decisions for my children in their best interest. Both parties are entitled to important information regarding the children, including, but not limited to, the current address and telephone numbers, education, medical, government agencies, physiological, and law enforcement records. Information about the children's progress in school and any other activities is equally available to both parties. Both parties are encouraged to consult with school staff regarding the children's welfare and education. I cannot contact the school. I have asked for the school's numbers and have gotten nothing. And here's the other thing. If this is true, why am I not receiving to my physical address progress reports? When they were going to school here in New York State, I got a progress report sent here and to my ex-wife's house because I was in control and we had 50-50 custody. So, is she in violation of our agreement already? You bet. Both parties and children shall have the rights to communicate by telephone or email in an age-appropriate manner and frequency during reasonable hours without excessive interference or monitoring by the other parent. That right there is a direct violation of the conversation that me and my son had about him respecting his mother. She is monitoring our conversations and controlling the information that they are receiving. And not only that, she's controlling what information gets out of them. Now, they could be crying out for help and I wouldn't be able to know about it. I want you to think about that. She's monitoring my calls. And the minute that I got my youngest son his own cell phone was the when this problem really started. Because she was letting him use a tablet that was hooked up to her email. So that means that all of the messages that we were having back and forth were going through her email. And it was no wonder why he was so upset, because he was saying things like, I wish Mommy and Ross never got married. Well, I'm sorry, buddy. I can't help you with that. That's Mommy and Ross's decision. That's not my fault. I can't help you. But I didn't realize what he was saying was he was so unhappy in his situation that it is affecting his life on a regular basis. Not to mention, this man, Ross, I have caught him yelling at my kids multiple times, and I've asked him personally not to do so. But yet, not only have I caught him, I have witnesses who have caught him yelling at my children inappropriately. So I urge you to understand that this man is possibly more dangerous than I am. I shouldn't say this. He's in a more stressful situation than I am on a regular basis. His job sounds really stressful. I don't know what it is 100%, but he's in some sort of military thing, whatever. And then he comes home to his high stressful situation. What do you think's going to happen? This man's going to break. And he's going to start yelling at everyone. And abuse is not far to follow, I'm sure. And I wonder if the reason why they wanted to move to Virginia, and I say they, but I mean he, was so that he could control the family without me being there to protect my children. Now, I was called a coward because, I was upset that my ex-wife was alone during the COVID-19 situation. Well, if you're telling me that our military relies on strictly one man to back up an entire army, we have way more problems than you and I have to worry about, buddy, because they should have immediately relieved him of his duties and sent him home. He has 5 kids at home and a wife alone during a COVID-19 outbreak. I'm sorry, but I understand that there are men who may have, families so that they can't be around. But there are certain situations, like this one, where it would only make sense that either she relieve herself of 2 of the children and send them home to their father, who has 50-50 custody, and are going to school online, so I could easily, as I am contacting you via this, have them continue school with no issues. Why was it not done? Why is it to the point where I'm getting paraded through court like a criminal because my ex-wife isn't happy about her lifestyle and her choices. This isn't about me or you. This is about a person's individual choice to be, well, a bad person. You know, that's it. And I didn't respond with any made up lines. I had written a statement and they didn't even let me read it. Because the judge had already made up her mind. And I thought that meant that I was screwed. You know, I thought for sure the judge was going to say order of protection installed. But no, you know what she did? She said overturned because it was a farce. It was a lie. And they knew it. And she has to sit with that on her head, that egg on her face, looking as stupid as she did the day that she left me. That was her own fault. And she feels, I'm sure, stupid now in her bad situation, watching my life get better and better, because it is actually pretty sweet. It's actually a really nice life. I can't complain. The only thing that's missing is my children, and that's going to be solved as soon as they come home. Don't you get it? Like, my house is set up for kids. My house is set up for them to come home. Because they come home every summer. But she's trying to push that back more and more. And try to keep that from happening. And I can't allow that. Aww.